What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, looking extremely un-lumberjacky today. But it's because I just came from a closing, and so people will usually not answer the door if I show up in flannel. They're
concerned.
They're concerned that it's like a Viking takeover of some sort.
That's funny.
It's a barbarian horde coming after them. So, as it's always on fantastic Fridays, we've got Mike Zuber from One Rent at a Time. How is it going, Mike? We've had a busy week.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love the fact that we interact a couple of times a week. We are interacting in groups together in our comments section. So yeah, a lot of these topics are coming from posts or comments. So folks, if you like what you're seeing or you have questions, you want to challenge us, leave comments below. Both Matt and I see them. So yeah, this one should be fun.
We do. And, you know, minus doing karate in the garage together, like we're almost best friends. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We are best friends.
So first thing I want to talk about, Mike, is loved the interview yesterday that you did kind of on the spot. It was one-off. I don't remember his name. I apologize. Okay. But it was the one that you guys were talking about. I always go through the comments after I read the video just to kind of see what's going on. Yep. And there was something in there about living wage and 22 bucks an hour instead of 13 and blah, blah, blah. So what I really wanted to cover with you is living wage, because you've got the economist background. Mm-hmm. You've done all that work. For me, I just look at it and say, you know, I'm from the 9th grade dropout side of things, where I look at it and just go, hey, listen, you want to get paid more, be worth more.
Exactly.
And so maybe I just oversimplify it, but I'm sure that you have a much more educated and in-depth way of looking at living wage. But let's kind of dialogue through that. And you know, I'd love to get your opinion on kind of what.
Yeah. So the interview you're referring to was with a gentleman named Stratton Brown. He is an entrepreneur. Yes. He is an employer, right? He's hiring people and right. He's a business owner. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about, that interview was talking about the fact that Biden wants to give more money away to the unemployed. And Stratton is just exacerbated because he can't hire anybody, right? Because people don't want to work. That was the interview. And then one of the comments talked about, hey, business owners basically are greedy. You know, stop paying 13. You should pay 22 bucks an hour. So this is a pretty common thing since I was in college, right? Mm-hmm. And I bring up college because that's where I studied economics. And, you know, sometimes what we do in economics is we take an argument and we kind of exacerbated, because sometimes when you look at a economic discussion at the margins, it's hard to see the impact. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do in today's conversation, and what I tried to do in the comments, was why 22? I mean, who made 22 the magic number? Right. Why not 32 or 42, or heck, let's make it 50 bucks an hour. And 50 bucks an hour is just an arbitrary number, because at 50 bucks an hour, you make 100 grand a year if you work full time. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do in this discussion with you is let's just have an honest discussion. What happens if minimum wage is 50 bucks an hour and everybody who's employed full-time makes at least 100 grand? Because when we could do this at 50 bucks an hour, it's the same at 22. It's just easier for everyone to see what happens at 50 bucks an hour. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Yeah.
All right. So again, if we do 50 bucks an hour as minimum wage, that means that means a teenager working at a fast food joint makes at least 50 bucks an hour.
Sure.
Right. A retail clerk, anyone. And the reason why this is important to understand is 50 bucks is the minimum wage. Right. Back to your point about being better, becoming more valuable. Well, 13 or 22 or 32 or 42, or this example, 50 is the minimum wage. What do you think that means for anybody who's a police officer or a teacher, right, or any of these other skilled professions? Are they going to be happy making 100 grand because their kid makes 100 grand?
No.
Are they?
Of course, no, of course not.
Right.
Because costs are going to be up across the board for
Well,
everything.
let's not get to cost yet. Let's just talk about wage.
Yeah.
Right. If you are
because I believe, like, I mean, I actually got bothered by his statement because I think it's short-sighted and stupid and shows a real lack of understanding of how things work. But I believe people are paid largely commiserate, and it correlates with their value, what value that they're adding to the food chain. So does the guy getting my coffee in the morning make as much money as the guy protecting me from being shot?
Right.
No, he doesn't, shouldn't.
Right. But if we go back to the person making your coffee suddenly makes 50 bucks an hour, that means the person protecting you from getting shot probably doesn't accept 50 bucks an hour.
That's right.
You gotta pay them. Why would he do that?
Sure.
Right. He would just serve coffee.
Sure.
So what happens here is you get a step function in wages, right? If the minimum wage is 50, I don't know what it would be. That would mean a police officer is 100, a teacher is 110. I mean, I don't know what they are, but
Sure.
everybody goes up wildly. Okay,
Sure.
that's the first thing you need to appreciate. So same answer if it goes to 22 or 32 or 52. Okay. Now what happens? Because we haven't done anything to the economy. We are just sprinkling and raining money down on people for doing minimum wage jobs. Well, I've been studying consumers for a long time. Maybe they're making 40 grand a year now. Bingo, bango. Now they make 100 grand. What do you think they do? Well, most of them continue to be stupid with money and they go spend it all as fast as it comes in.
That's right.
Not only do they get stupid and spend it all that comes in, but they go get the credit cards because now they're making 100 grand and they can get more and more debt. They can get a third car, a fourth car. They can do all these stupid things. So not only do we not get better financially, we consume more when we haven't produced anything more. We haven't produced nothing. We're just consuming stuff faster, which means we have less stuff. Inflation happens. Oh, by the way, what happens again, using the coffee example? Do you think a coffee is profitable at $4 or whatever it is?
No,
in your
no
area?
way.
When everybody there, when all 12 employees make at least 100 grand?
Yeah, your current shift at McDonald's, the entire shift probably makes $150 an hour. The entire shift. So now if you have 15 people making, now it's $1,500 an hour instead of $150 an hour, which means largely speaking, labor is usually what, 60% the cost of, a good. And so all of a sudden you're having to take all of those numbers and you're going to at least welcome to the land of $40 coffee.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. Sure.
So what happens?
And that happens instantaneously because their check is there, their money is there day one. The cost of goods, everything goes through the roof because now a trucker isn't making 60 or 70,000 bucks a year. Now a trucker is
200
or more, even more.
Exactly.
Now a trucker is making, because that's they're, if they're right now at 5x what minimum, what a $10 an hour wage is, and they're making $60 an hour or something. Now all of a sudden it's 6x. So now they're making, now you've got truckers making 300 grand, 350 grand a year.
Yeah. Again, let me be clear. I hope everybody makes 100 grand a year.
Of course.
That's the wrong argument.
Right. Agreed.
There's two things. So again, sometimes when we talk about economic terms, I find it easier to go to the extreme.
Yes.
Because then people can see what happens easier, right? That's the same answer from 12 to 22 or whatever the answer, 15 to 22. The same thing happens just on a smaller scale. So the answer really is a couple of things. One is we need to start teaching financial education because we will have just as many people living paycheck to paycheck if everybody made 40 versus everybody making 100. And that is sad.
Yep.
That is a sad state of affairs. That is a crime on our education system. It's just, again, nobody is going to be better off with everybody making 100 grand a year. And most of you would be worse off because the hamburger is $40 or whatever it is. And you have nothing and you have more debt. You know how many people would go get more debt if they bingo bango made $50 an hour? Oh, it'd be fucking mind-boggling.
Everybody.
And it would be instant and we haven't produced anything. You're not more productive. You're not more valuable. We have people that would normally go get trades deciding just to be a coffee barista or whatever that is. They wouldn't work in, it's again, and I bring up these examples because it's the same thing at $22 an hour. I don't know what's magical about 22. I just don't. It's 40% more than now. Well, why don't you go get financially educated? Why don't we spend less, understand needs and wants? Why don't you budget a little bit? And oh, by the way, go get some training. Be better. Who is out there saying that minimum wage is acceptable? I had a minimum wage job for like a year and I busted my butt and then I got a little more and then they didn't want to pay me anymore. So I got a different job.
That's right. Well, eventually you have to, the workforce cycle is you have to be getting into careers or jobs that are more valuable if you're going to get paid more money. It's literally just that simple. And I sold cars for a while.
Yeah.
And I realized I didn't want to work 80 hours a week. And I looked at it and I said, okay, the top guy doing this makes like 100 and a quarter. Like that's the end of the rainbow. And that's after this guy's got 20 years of relationships and he's getting fleet sales and all this. I was like, no way. No way am I working like this for 120 grand. When I looked at it and said, you know, software, it was ironic because software, it was like, you had plenty of guys making 100 grand. And I would talk to them and I was like, you are dumb as a stump. Like, it's amazing that that you can put 2 feet, you know, one foot.
You don't fall down when you walk and breathe.
Yeah. I mean, like chewing gum and talking at the same time is difficult.
Yeah.
And so I just looked at that and said, but the top guys in that industry, you know, those top guys, 7 figures, no problem.
Easy.
For their top guys, 7 figures. And then you get part of a startup or a founder or something like that. And now you're talking, forget about 7 figures. You're talking 8 or 9 figures.
Yeah, certainly 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just gets crazy. So yeah, I think the living wage argument, I agree with you. I think it's people don't understand purely the economics of how this works, which is if tomorrow you're all making $50, guess what? The scale will go through the rest of society, which makes, you know, truckers worth $300 an hour and policemen $300 an hour. And then, you know, teachers are $300 an hour. And again, you've not created anything more. You've not done anything more. Everything becomes inflationary at that point, and welcome to the $40 cup of coffee. And
Awesome.
Usually the mix will be out of direct correlation, i.e. you're making $50, but now the cup of coffee didn't go up commensurate with that. It went up that plus.
Yeah.
So you're actually making less, even though you're making more because you have less spending power. Right.
Yeah. And let's not pretend that companies would get a lot more motivated to not hire you. They would do that. You may walk into a coffee store, instead of having 12 people, you might have 3 because they'd just be automated. I
was going to say, you're not going to have any. Like, this is one thing that this argument absolutely bugs the daylights out of me on, is because I work in the automation space. Every single thing that we do on a daily basis is to eliminate the need for human people.
that was, oh man, I sold automation software like, 2005 to 10.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember having spreadsheets going, don't need them.
Exactly. Like we have those conversations. And the funny thing now is that we talk to organizations. We're not like, hey, let's lay off a bunch of people. We actually tell them this is going to stem the tide for you. So you're not going to have to keep on hiring so aggressively.
See, that's what happens when a booming economy. It's like you can close recs. You don't have to hire the next 40. But you know what happens in a recession? It's like Mary's going, Bob's going.
That's right. Yeah, you just exactly start crossing the list. Like we have organizations that have not added headcount in different departments in 5 years. So the funny thing is that they've all been able to, because of that efficiency, they've all been able to give those people that stayed there raises.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not creating more jobs because you're not needed. And quite frankly, if you're a, you know, minimum wage earner or that lower tier worker from where you are in the pecking order within an organization, McDonald's is going to say, you know what, we can pay $60,000 a year for these Elon Musk robots.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll pay 60, we'll pay 60 grand a year for those. And yeah, so we don't pay that person 30, doesn't matter. Our return on capital is 2 years.
Yeah. And then we'll hire one robot engineer that will cover 12 stores and he'll make 500 grand a year.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Mike, any more thoughts on living wage?
No, again, I think you just have to, I see lots of people just mad about everything.
Yeah.
And whatever happened to personal responsibility, just getting better, working hard. I don't know where that went.
It's largely missing in very many people. And certainly one of the things that I like that you and Anna covered on Wednesday was, you know, 60% of people on those level of benefits end up on those benefits themselves.
That was heartbreaking to me.
Well, it's like we talked about
poverty.
It's like we talked about on Tuesday. It was, I have a housing tenant that is third generation.
That's unfortunate.
It's just, and the whole thing is I don't think their kids are going to turn out any different. And it's just because they haven't been given the keys of the kingdom, and clearly what they're learning in school isn't changing their trajectory.
Yeah.
It's clearly not changing. And that's the biggest issue that we have now.
That is something that I wish was some political leader would pick up, that having 60 or 70% of the people that grow up in housing stay in housing. That is we're not helping. We're not
No.
inspiring. We're not showing. I call it hope. I haven't found a better word. We're not
That's the
creating
right
hope.
word.
Again, some people have that fire. Anna Kelly has the fire. She didn't want to grow up in an abusive and have to stay in an
Right.
abusive. I mean, I wish whatever politician picks that up, I'm gonna throw some money behind, because that might become something I personally try to figure out. That is just not okay. It's
something I know she does that with Greater Purpose Capital. It's something that we do as well.
Yep.
We talk to folks all the time about finances, and they say, this is how you can be on track for rent every month, is if you just kind of, here's that budget spreadsheet essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the biggest issue now, is that people just don't have a good relationship with money. And it's something that needs to change, but that only changes through education. And quite frankly, you still have to want it. And I think that
process, it's long.
yeah,
the whole thing is it works out if you stay on the path, but if you don't have hope to start, you never start the path.
That's right.
It's a chicken and egg thing that's really stressing, frustrating me. I'm trying to play with the riddle. So
yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, Mike, thanks so much for this session. Looking forward to number 2. How does the housing market crash happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're going to talk crash, Mike.
We are.
Oh, this is good. Mike, thanks so much for the time. Where can everybody find you, my man?
Go to your Google search bar, type one rental at a time.
Yes. And if you have a spare, what was the math? I think it's just about 2,000 hours.
Yeah.
If you have 2,000 hours, you can watch all Mike's videos.
We'll do that.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.